All right. Well, I'm glad that you're going to be able to spend this entire segment chomping down on the pizza that I can see on your desk in there. So you're going to be having a blast enjoying that pizza while we talk some baseball. So I'm going to be having a great time. Don't you worry. We spent the last segment talking about where this roster currently sits for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And we came to the determination, we came to the conclusion that this team in free agency, via trade, in terms of talent acquisition, are probably looking to get a first baseman, a third baseman, an outfielder, a starting pitcher or two, and relievers, just like everybody's looking for relievers. And because those are needs, that doesn't mean that they don't fill those needs with players that were on this team last year that just come back, right? Jordan Montgomery has a player option. He could just opt back in to the money that he's supposed to get. And if the Diamondbacks don't trade him, he's going to be on the team, right? So there are ways for these to get filled by Christian Walker coming back, Eugenio Suarez coming back. So we will get into all of that. But The Athletic did a story about the top 45 free agents going into this offseason. And there were a handful of names that, with all of these players, they wrote up a blurb about the player. They wrote out the best fits for that player. And then they gave a prediction of what the contract will look like for that player. So this is not the be-all, end-all. It's not a exact rumor that is linking the Diamondbacks to a specific player. But I do find it interesting where the Diamondbacks were on this, where they get linked to a certain player, a certain position, and it's just interesting to see. And we will start with a player that I would say probably 85 to 95% of this audience probably has never heard of before. Now, maybe I am overstating the audience's baseball or understating the audience's baseball knowledge, and you can prove me wrong at 480-864-1060. But this is a player that does not play in the United States. And so I don't know how many people are familiar with Roki Sasaki over in Japan. I don't know how many people are familiar with a guy who's throwing 103 miles per hour over in Japan and is supposed to be better as a pitcher than Shohei Ohtani was. Now, if you watch the World Baseball Classic, you saw him pitch, but I don't know if you're keeping up with the international free agent market in baseball. Just don't know. I'm just taking a guess and saying you're probably not. So what I find so interesting about this is if Sasaki was coming over as a free agent the way Yamamoto was last year before ending up with the Dodgers, he would sign a massive contract, and that contract probably would price the Diamondbacks out. But the difference with Roki Sasaki is if he comes over from Japan to the United States, he will be signed the way Shohei Ohtani was signed by the Angels. And if you remember, Shohei Ohtani didn't get a big contract with the Angels. He had to sign a minor league deal and then was under team control for 6 years. And then once he hit free agency, boom, he went to the Dodgers. And the Diamondbacks are listed as one of the teams that is a potential fit for Roki Sasaki because they have been one of the teams that has extensively scouted Sasaki over in Japan. Now, he's going to sign with whoever he wants to, but he's not signing for a ton of money. So the Dodgers can't win a financial battle here. The Mets can't win a financial battle here. The Yankees, the Cubs, the Red Sox, these big teams, they can't just overwhelm these players with money. So it's going to come down to if you can sell the player that you're the best fit for him and you're the best location for him. And we have seen with a lot of the players that come over from Japan, from Korea, that they like to be on the West Coast because it is closer to home. They're making a major life change. They're making a major culture change. They want to be able to, when they have the time, to be able to go home or get family to them or whatever the case may be. And so that's why you have seen a lot of these players end up signing with the West Coast. But Sasaki is listed as a potential fit for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And if he does come over this year and doesn't wait for down the road where he's able to get a contract like Yamamoto did, then the Diamondbacks are certainly in play here. And we talked about just getting a back of the rotation starting pitcher. No, this guy would be a front line. You put him next to Zach Gallen and Brandon Pfaadt as your top of the rotation options. And you have a 1 through 3 that's pretty formidable in the National League. That's what Sasaki brings. Brings 100 plus miles per hour on his fastball. Now he's been hurt, hasn't thrown a ton of innings recently, but the talent is there. The stuff is incredible. And so if he does decide to come over and play in Major League Baseball next year, a big-time name that the Diamondbacks will certainly be linked to. The next 4 names are all names that are going to sound extremely familiar to everybody here listening because they talk about Christian Walker potentially coming back. And that goes back to what we were saying, that they need to fill the first base slot. They could just do so by bringing back Christian Walker. Eugenio Suarez is listed here. Now, what I find interesting about this Athletic story is they have their contract projection for Eugenio Suarez to just be the Diamondbacks picking up his $15 million option for next year and having him back. And that does feel like something that would make a lot of sense. You bring back Eugenio Suarez, you pick up that option, he's your third baseman, and you basically have him as a bridge to Jordan Lawler. Just like in the NFL, you have teams that will sign veteran quarterbacks. Andy Dalton's been through this a couple of times, where you sign a veteran quarterback as a bridge for your first-round rookie, and that bridge quarterback plays the first month of the season, month and a half of the season, whatever the case may be, and then gets replaced when the optics are good to get the rookie in there and they've gotten some practices under their belt. They've gotten accustomed to the National Football League. That feels like what they might do with Eugenio Suarez. They pick up his option. He plays third base. But if he struggles or they feel like Jordan Lawler is ready, then they shift Suarez back to being a bench piece, defensive replacement guy that they have as an insurance policy against Jordan Lawler, who they would make the everyday third baseman. Jordan Montgomery, the next name on this list, and they have him projected to pick up his option. But what was intriguing is they added to it that they projected him to pick up his option, and then the Diamondbacks will try to trade him. And I think after the comments made by the upper brass of the Arizona Diamondbacks, meaning ownership, meaning Ken Kendrick, that the mistake of signing Jordan Montgomery is on him. He was the one that brought it to Mike Hazen and the front office's attention that this was something that he would be interested in doing. And he took all of the blame for the way that situation played out in 2024. It feels like they would try to move on from him. I don't know if there's going to be a team that wants to take on that type of money with the underperformance that Jordan Montgomery had. But teams are always looking to acquire some depth starting pitching, and maybe there's a team out there that thinks that they can get more out of Jordan Montgomery, that they have the pitching lab or the data or the coaching to be able to get more out of Jordan Montgomery at this stage of his career, and they take a flyer on him, and the Diamondbacks eat some level of the money. Maybe that is the path out. Jock Peterson, also listed here as a fit for the Diamondbacks. Again, you would bring him back as potential DH because that would allow you to move Gurriel back to being the left fielder, and that would kind of solve that outfield problem that we were talking about, although you may want to try to get somebody who can hit a little bit more in center field and have Alec Thomas as more of a defensive fourth outfielder replacement. But Jock Peterson, you could put in there as your DH and then slide Gurriel back to the outfield. That's one configuration how this could break down. But I just don't know how the Diamondbacks would feel about completely running it back. Do they completely want to run it back and bring back Christian Walker and pick up the option on Suarez and bring back Jock Peterson? Does it feel like they want to completely run it back? I don't think so. So when you look at these four names of guys that were here last year, I don't think all of them will be back. Jordan Montgomery, I think, will be back just because he's going to pick up that option. He's not going to turn down that kind of money because he's not going to beat that in the open market. And then I think you could get one of Christian Walker, Suarez, or Peterson back. But I do think they will look outside of the organization for the rest of the holes that they need to fill on this team. Three other names, two relievers, Carlos Estevez and Blake Trinan, who was just participating in the World Series to bolster this bullpen. Look, it's not, don't get hung up on these two names. Don't get excited or disappointed that it's Carlos Estevez and Blake Trinan that the Diamondbacks are linked to in this story. Every team in baseball that is attempting to be competitive is going to look for relief pitching to bolster their bullpen. And the Arizona Diamondbacks are no different. They are going to look to get somebody who can pitch in the seventh inning, the sixth inning, to have some more higher leverage arms or medium leverage arms that can help bridge the gap to AJ Puck and to Justin Martinez. And they may even want to add another higher leverage arm. We talked about what the Guardians did in having a seventh, eighth, and ninth inning guy that you completely have faith in so you can make the game a 6-inning game. The Diamondbacks may want to try to do that as well and add one more higher leverage reliever arm to Martinez and to Puck to give them three guys, a three-headed monster down there late in games. And then the last name on this list was pretty interesting, and you clearly see why they did it. Paul Goldschmidt was linked back to the Arizona Diamondbacks. If they lose Christian Walker and they want to get a replacement, he is a veteran. It's not going to be a long-term deal. They could bring him home. It would be an interesting story. And he still has some skill set left in that bat. And so that would be an interesting pivot if they don't want to give a longer term deal to Christian Walker and they wanted to go to a short term deal, somebody that they know very well, somebody that they know loves this environment, was here for a long time. There is a connectivity there that they could link to potentially bring Paul Goldschmidt back into the fold. So those are just some of the names on the Athletic story of the top 45 free agents. These are players that the Diamondbacks were linked to. There are other free agents out there that the Diamondbacks could be interested in that play first base, that are reliever arms, that are outfielders that just weren't listed as the Diamondbacks as a fit. So don't just think that this is the list of free agents that the Diamondbacks are going to pursue. Just a couple of names to sort of set the tone as an appetizer for what is going to be a very impactful offseason